You will not believe what we just witnessed backstage, and frankly, WWE does not want you to see this footage. The conversation that just happened between Roman Reigns and the Usos is the most disrespectful, controversial moment that nobody's talking about, and we're breaking it all down right now because this changes everything about the power structure in WWE. If you think you understand the bloodline after today, you're completely wrong, and by the end of this video, you're going to be furious at what really went down. The tension, the jealousy, the absolute backstabbing that occurred in that backstage area is something WWE has been trying to hide from us for weeks. This is the kind of exclusive content that gets videos taken down, comments deleted, and channels flagged, but we're bringing you the truth because our Ring Rumble community deserves to know what's really happening behind the curtain. And trust me, after you hear what we're about to reveal, you're going to have major questions about where this is all heading. Let's set the scene because this is absolutely critical to understanding everything that's about to unfold. The Usos, Jimmy and GUSO, just accomplished something that seemed impossible mere weeks ago. They walked into Monday Night Raw as hungry contenders, and they walked out as the new World Tag Team Champions. The electricity in that arena was insane. The crowd was losing their minds. But here's what WWE doesn't want you focusing on. The real story isn't about their victory. The real story is what happened the exact moment they got backstage. When Roman Reigns found them, the entire dynamic changed. Now, you might think Roman would be throwing his cousins a celebration, jumping around, congratulating them on their massive achievement. But no. What actually transpired was something far more sinister, far more calculated, and far more revealing about the true nature of the bloodline in 2024 and beyond. This is the moment everything shifted, and we've got all the details. First, let's talk about what the Usos accomplished, because this is significant. They defeated a team that everyone thought was unstoppable. These guys have been on an absolute tear, and the odds were stacked against them. But the Usos, with their signature chemistry, their timing, their ability to work together as one single unit, overcame those odds. They've worked their entire careers to reach this moment. They've sacrificed, they've fought, they've bled for this opportunity. And when that final bell rang, they became World Tag Team Champions. But here's where it gets juicy. The Usos have been under Roman Reigns' shadow for a long time. They've been associated with the bloodline, part of his family, part of his crew. And while that association has elevated their status, it's also meant that every single one of their accomplishments has been somewhat overshadowed by Roman's presence. Every victory has a footnote that says with the bloodline. Every moment is filtered through the lens of Roman's dominance. So when the Usos finally achieve this, they want to have their moment. They want to celebrate. They want to feel like their hard work matters. So when Roman Reigns walks into that backstage area, the tension is immediate. You can cut it with a knife. Because here's the thing, Roman Reigns has been the center of everything in WWE for years now. He's the tribal chief. He's the top guy. Everything revolves around him. And now, the Usos have achieved something massive, something that belongs to them, something that is entirely their accomplishment. And what does Roman do? What we're about to break down is absolutely crucial to understanding the politics of professional wrestling and the bloodline specifically. Roman doesn't immediately launch into a celebration. There's a moment where he assesses the situation. He's taking in what's happened. He's processing what these championships mean. And then he congratulates them. But the way he does it, the words he uses, the tone in his voice, everything about it is calculated to remind the Usos of exactly who the real boss is in this situation. This is vintage Roman Reigns politics. This is the stuff that creates fractured alliances and sown seeds of discord within seemingly united factions. Because what Roman is doing is congratulating them while simultaneously reminding them of their place in the hierarchy. He's saying, great job, cousins, but let's not forget who made this possible. Let's not forget who brings the real championship prestige to this group. Now, let me ask you something in the comments because I need to know what you think about this situation. Do you believe that Roman Reigns was genuinely happy for the Usos in that backstage moment, or do you think his congratulations were laced with ego and control? Type your answer right now in the comments section. Let's see what the Ring Rumble community really thinks about this dynamic. The genius of professional wrestling is that it's always about the layers. It's always about what's being said underneath what's actually being said. And in this backstage interaction, there are so many layers that it's absolutely maddening trying to keep track of them all. The Usos are World Tag Team Champions, yes. But they're also more indebted to Roman Reigns than ever before. Because if Roman hadn't given them the platform, if Roman hadn't elevated them within the bloodline structure, would they have even had access to this championship opportunity? Think about it. The Usos' entire recent run has been defined by their association with Roman Reigns and the bloodline. Every match they've had, every opponent they've faced, it's all been through the lens of Roman's dominance. So when they finally achieve something on this scale, the achievement itself is complicated by the fact that they owe so much of their current status to Roman. And Roman, he knows this. He absolutely knows this, and that's why his congratulations carry so much weight and so much implication. This is the kind of stuff that creates real tension in storylines. This is the kind of moment that years from now we're going to look back on and say that was the moment everything changed. Because what Roman is essentially doing is reminding the Usos that there are expectations that come with being family to the tribal chief. There are responsibilities. There are obligations. But here's what makes this really interesting from a storytelling perspective. The Usos, they've been part of the bloodline, yes, but they've also been building their own identity as competitors. They've been proving that they can win matches based on their own merit, their own abilities, their own talent. And now, with these World Tag Team Championships around their waists, they have tangible proof that they belong in the upper echelon of WWE competition. This is their achievement. This belongs to them. So when Roman comes backstage and congratulates them, and when he does so in that particular way that reminds them of the hierarchy, you have to wonder, are the Usos feeling validated, or are they feeling patronized? Are they feeling supported, or are they feeling controlled? This is the emotional undercurrent that's going to define their character arcs moving forward. Let me ask you another question for the comments, because I genuinely want to know if you were the Usos in that moment. Would you feel grateful to Roman Reigns for helping you get to this position, or would you feel resentful that even your own personal victory is being filtered through his presence? Drop your thoughts right now. I want to hear what you all think. The political dynamics of the bloodline have always been fascinating to analyze. On the surface, it's a family unit united by blood and by a common code, but underneath that surface, there's a massive power imbalance. Roman Reigns is the undisputed top of the hierarchy. He sets the rules. He determines the direction. He decides who gets elevated and who doesn't. Everyone else in the bloodline exists in relation to Roman Reigns. They're defined by their connection to him. This isn't necessarily a bad thing from a storytelling perspective. It's actually brilliant, because it creates this constant tension between personal achievement and group allegiance. When the Usos win these championships, it's their victory, yes, but it's also a victory for the bloodline as a whole. It means another championship in the family. It means another way that the bloodline dominates WWE. And Roman, he benefits from this. He benefits from his family being strong. But here's the dark side of this dynamic. Roman also benefits from keeping his family members slightly insecure about their position within the hierarchy. If the Usos are always wondering if they're truly valued for their own accomplishments, or if they're just pawns in Roman's game, then they're always going to be seeking his approval. They're always going to be trying to prove themselves to him. And this, in turn, makes them more loyal, more compliant, more willing to do whatever Roman asks of them. This is psychological warfare. This is the kind of stuff that separates great professional wrestling storytelling from just good storytelling. Because it's not just about who wins matches. It's about the emotional and psychological complexity of these relationships. It's about understanding motivation. It's about understanding what drives people to do what they do. And what we're seeing in this backstage interaction is Roman Reigns being an absolute master of this kind of psychological manipulation. He congratulates the Usos, he acknowledges their achievement, but he does so in a way that keeps them emotionally dependent on his validation and his approval. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Ring Rumble, maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe Roman was just being nice. And to you, I say, watch the footage again. Listen to the tone of his voice. Observe his body language. These are the tools that professional wrestlers use to communicate subtext. And if you pay close attention, you'll see that Roman Reigns was doing exactly what I'm describing. This is why this moment matters so much. This is why we're breaking it down in such detail. Because this is a moment that reveals the true nature of the relationships within the bloodline. And understanding these relationships is absolutely critical to understanding where WWE is headed next. The question becomes, are the Usos going to recognize what's happening here? Are they going to wake up to the psychological dynamics that Roman is employing? Or are they going to remain in this state of emotional dependency, always seeking his validation, always trying to prove themselves to him? This is where storytelling gets really interesting. Because if WWE is smart, if WWE's creative team is paying attention, they're going to develop this tension. They're going to show the Usos gradually becoming more aware of these dynamics. And eventually, this awareness could lead to a massive fracture within the bloodline. Think about the storytelling potential here. You've got the Usos as World Tag Team Champions, riding high on their victory. But they're also beginning to recognize that their success doesn't truly belong to them because it's always being filtered through Roman Reigns' presence. So they start to pull away. They start to distance themselves. They start to build their own identity separate from the bloodline, and this, in turn, threatens Roman's control of the family unit. Before we continue, I need to ask you who would win in a match between the Usos and Roman Reigns if they were to turn on the bloodline and face him directly. Would they have the power to take him down, or is Roman's dominance simply too complete? Comment your prediction right now, because I genuinely believe this could be the direction WWE is heading. The beauty of this backstage moment is that it doesn't announce itself as a turning point. It doesn't have dramatic music or a narrator explaining what's happening. It's just a conversation between family members. It's just Roman congratulating his cousins on their victory. But when you understand the subtext, when you understand the psychological dynamics at play, you realize that this is a turning point. This is a moment that's going to reverberate throughout WWE for months to come. And this is why WWE trying to bury this footage, trying to hide this moment from us, is absolutely the wrong move. Because this moment contains so much storytelling information, this moment reveals so much about the inner workings of the bloodline and the relationships within it. By trying to hide it, WWE is actually making the story more interesting, more compelling, and more worthy of our attention. So let's talk about what this means for the Usos going forward. They're World Tag Team Champions now. They have the most prestigious tag team championship in professional wrestling around their waists. They've accomplished something that only a select few teams in history have accomplished. This is a massive moment for them, but this is also a moment of inflection. This is a moment where they could choose to continue being defined by their relationship to Roman Reigns, or they could choose to break away and establish their own legacy. And based on this backstage conversation, it seems like Roman Reigns is subtly reminding them which option he prefers. The psychological complexity here is absolutely fascinating. Because Roman Reigns, he doesn't need the Usos to do anything specific. He doesn't need them to win matches or carry championships. But he wants them to want to do these things. He wants them to be motivated by the desire to prove themselves to him. And the way he accomplishes this is through these subtle interactions, these moments where he acknowledges their achievements while simultaneously reminding them of his dominance. This is next level stuff. This is the kind of storytelling that separates WWE at its best from WWE when it's just going through the motions. And the fact that this moment happened, the fact that it was captured, and the fact that we're getting to analyze it in detail is absolutely incredible from a fan perspective. Let me ask you one more question, because I'm genuinely curious. Do you think the Usos will eventually turn on Roman Reigns, or do you think they'll remain loyal to the bloodline forever? This is a huge question, and your answer is going to reveal a lot about how you see the future of WWE. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. What's also fascinating about this moment is the timing of it. The Usos just won the championship, they're riding high, they're emotional, they're celebrating. And this is exactly when Roman chooses to have this conversation with them. He's choosing this moment of vulnerability, this moment when they're emotional and potentially not at their most rational, to plant these seeds of understanding about the hierarchy of the bloodline. This is strategic. This is calculated. This is Roman Reigns being a master manipulator in the absolute best way possible, because he's not being mean about it. He's not being overt about it. He's simply reminding them of the reality of their situation while they're in a vulnerable emotional state. And this is going to stay with them. This is going to gnaw at them. This is going to influence every decision they make going forward. The genius of professional wrestling is that it plays with these human emotions and human dynamics. We all know people like Roman Reigns in real life. We all know people who are so dominant in their social circles, so influential, that everyone around them is constantly trying to seek their approval and validation. And we all know how that feels from the other side of it. We all know what it's like to be trying to prove ourselves to someone we respect or fear. And WWE is basically putting this dynamic on display. They're showing us Roman Reigns using his dominance not just physically in the ring, but psychologically and emotionally in these backstage moments. And this is what makes professional wrestling so compelling. Because it's not just about the athleticism, it's about the storytelling, it's about the psychology, it's about understanding human nature and human motivation. So as we move forward, keep an eye on the Usos. Watch how they interact with Roman Reigns. Watch to see if there are cracks forming in their alliance. Watch to see if they're beginning to recognize the psychological games being played with them. Because if WWE is telling this story correctly, this recognition is going to come. And when it does, it's going to be huge. This backstage moment between Roman Reigns and the Usos is not just about one conversation. It's about the beginning of a narrative that could define the next chapter of WWE storytelling. It's about the seeds being planted for a potential